सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ श्री गणेशाय नमः। ॐ श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् परमानन्दमाधवम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। So we have completed the fourfold qualification as given by Bhagavan Shri Shankaracharya ji here in Viveka Chudamani. Sadhana Chatushtaya, Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi Shat Sampatti and Mumukshutva. We have understood what is the meaning of it, what is the significance, importance of it, how to develop it, what is the connection between the four, all that we have seen. In the last session, we saw Samadhana and Mumukshutva. Samadhana is not contentment or satisfaction. Samadhana means well placing the mind in your goal, in the Supreme Brahman. Samyak Adhanam, placing the mind perfectly in that Supreme Brahman. That concentration of mind is what is called as Samadhanam. And Mumukshutva we saw as the guiding force on this entire spiritual path. Mumukshutva is what? Moktumichha, Mumukshuta or Mumukshutva. What is that? Moktumichha, desire for liberation. Liberation from what? Shankaracharya says, Ahankaradi dehantan bandhan ajnana kalpitan. Liberation from bondage. What is the bondage? The bondage is to feel that I am this body, mind, intellect. Feeling of self in the not self is called as bondage. Anatmani atma buddhi. And what is this feeling coming from? This feeling is coming from ignorance, ajnana kalpitan. So, desire to liberate oneself from this bondage, that desire is called as mumukshutva, which is the fourth qualification required. And we saw it is fourth doesn't mean it is least important, but it is most important. It is the petrol in the vehicle of spiritual life. Then Shankaracharya ji made a note on this also, that this mumukshutva should be tivra, strong desire should be there, burning desire for liberation should be there. And if it is not strong, if it is dull or mediocre, then how to develop it? That was also said. Vairagyena, Samadhina, and what? and Guroho prasadena, by the grace of the Guru. So you develop Vairagya, dispassion, more. You develop Samadhi Shat Sampatti, the sixfold inner wealth, more. Then what will happen? Your dull or mediocre mumukshutva also will become strong. That desire which is there for liberation, sometimes it is dull, means what? We don't feel that it is important. I want TV, I want bike, like that I want liberation. That is called as dull mumukshutva. You don't feel that liberation is must. Sometimes we feel that it is important, but we don't feel that it is urgent, that it is immediate. Lot of time is there, we will do. That is called as mediocre liberation, desire for liberation, which means what? We keep shifting like a pendulum. At some point of time, we are very much passionate about our goal, that now, spiritual life is everything. Then at some point of time, we are totally indulgent. We forget all that, isn't it? We move between yoga and bhoga, between sadhana and indulgence, like a pendulum. That is called as mediocre mumukshutva. Madhyama, intermediate. What is Tivra, strong desire for liberation? It is to understand that liberation is important and urgent. If not now, never. That kind of intense desire when we have, then liberation we get. In Hindi movies, etc., they have dialogues. When you desire something very strongly, then the whole world conspires to fulfill your desire. Have you heard? If the desire is for liberation, then it is worth having. All other desires, what is there? Some point of time we will have it anyway. पूरी कायनात तुमको उसको मिलाने की कोशिश में जुट जाती है. All okay. True also. But then that desire should be strong. And if that desire is for liberation, the best. Why? Because then it will give you the best. So, if this mumukshutva is not strong, how to make it strong? That also Bhagavan Shankaracharya said, you improve your Vairagya, you improve your Samadhi Shat Sampatti, then Guru's grace will flow and your mumukshutva will become strong, Tivra. Right? Now, next two verses, he is making a note on, he is telling us something about this Samadhi Shat Sampatti. Viveka Vairagya, okay. Samadhi Shat Sampatti and mumukshutva. On mumukshutva, he said something. Now he says something about Samadhi Shat Sampatti. Now let us see. Verse number 29. Please repeat. Vairagyam cha mumukshutvam Tivram yasya tu vidyate Tasminne varthavantasyuhu Phalavantashyamadayah. Next verse also. Etayor mandata yatra Viraktatva mumukshayoho Marau salilavat tatra Shamader bhanamatrata Vairagyam cha mumukshutvam Tivram yasya tu vidyate Tasminne varthavantasyuhu Phalavantashyamadayah. Etayor mandata yatra Viraktatva mumukshayoho Marau salilavat tatra Shamader bhanamatrata. What is said here? He says, Vairagyam cha mumukshutvam. Vairagya, now we know, dispassion, detachment. Mumukshutva, that burning desire for liberation. where yatra, yasya or yasya means yasya for a person for whom vairagya and mumukshutva, dispassion and desire for liberation, tivram vidyate, for whom these two are strong. For a person, if vairagya and mumukshutva are strong, then tasmin eva, in such a person alone, shamadayah, shama etc., arthavantah, phalavantah syuhu. Shamadhi Shat Sampatti becomes arthavanta. Arthavanta means meaningful. Artha means meaning. Phalavanta, fruitful. Phala means fruit, result. So what is said here? For a person in whom vairagya and mumukshutva are strong, in such a person alone, the Shamadhi Shat Sampatti becomes meaningful and fruitful. Why is he saying like this? You see, Shamadhi Shat Sampatti is required even for worldly gain. For example, suppose I want to become a sports star, sports person, that I want to play for my country. Then Shama, Dama, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhan, all these 5 factors are required. Shama means control of mind, required or not required? Very much required. Control of senses, required or not required? Very much required. If I were to become a sports person, then I have to have control over my tongue in both ways, speaking also and eating also. I need that. I need control over my eyes and all other senses, how much TV I am going to watch, how much YouTube I am going to watch, how much I am going to, indulge in all other things. I need to have titiksha. I have to go through little discomforts of life. If I have to become great, all these things I have to become. I have to go through. Shraddha, of course, required. Samadhanam, single pointedness, that concentration is of course required. So actually speaking, now we took example of sports person. Now you take any field. I want to become a scientist. I want to become a great business person. For all that, all these things are required. I want to become great singer. All these things are required. I cannot go on eating whatever I want. I cannot become singer like this. I have to have focus when I am sitting and doing riyaz, etc. So actually speaking, all these are required, Shamadhi Shat Sampatti, in all fields. And stronger these are, stronger will be my mind and faster I can achieve my goal. But here, see, he brings beauty. What? He says in case of spiritual life, that Shamadhi Shat Sampatti will become meaningful when Vairagya is there. Carefully note. Shamadhi Shat Sampatti will become meaningful when Vairagya is there, and it will become fruitful when Mumukshutva is there. Strong. Strong Vairagya will make this Shamadhi Shat Sampatti meaningful. Why meaningful? Because Vairagya is that which distinguishes between worldly gain and spiritual gain. What is dispassion? Dispassion is to say that I don't want anything worldly in this world or in any other world. Which means what? The distinction between worldly achievements and spiritual goal is done by Vairagya. So, though Shamadhi Shat Sampatti is required for both, worldly gain also and spiritual gain also, the distinguishing factor is Vairagya. If Vairagya is strong, then that Shamadhi Shat Sampatti is applied for spiritual gain, not for worldly gain. Then it becomes meaningful. Shamadhi Shat Sampatti is useful in any achievement, whether worldly or spiritual. But when Vairagya is strong, Shamadhi Shat Sampatti is being used for spiritual life, then it becomes meaningful. What do you mean then it becomes meaningful? The control of mind which you are trying to achieve is meaningful when you are using it for something higher. If I am using that controlled mind to do something of the world, then I am not using full capacity of my mind. And therefore, it is said, where in a person, if Vairagya is strong, if the dispassion is strong, then Samadhi Shat Sampatti becomes meaningful. Point number 1. Point number 2, what is he saying? If Mumukshutva is also strong, see, dispassion is there. Dispassion means I don't want anything worldly. Mumukshutva tells me that I want that liberation. And Tivra Mumukshutva means I want liberation and liberation alone, and that also now. When that Mumukshutva is also strong, then Samadhi Shat Sampatti becomes fruitful. Fruitful means it will give its result. What is its result? Liberation. It will give it. It will give that result to me. Vairagyam cha mumukshutvam tivram yasya tu vidyate. For whom both these are strong, tasminneva, in such a person alone, arthavantasyu phalavanta shamadaya. Samadhi Shat Sampatti becomes meaningful and what? Fruitful. Are you getting the point? If I am a student and I am studying for college, etc., also Samadhi Shat Sampatti is required. Isn't it? I have to control my mind. Tomorrow is exam. I can't watch TV today. I have to study with full concentration. Samadhi Shat Sampatti is required in everything. But when Vairagya is strong, the Samadhi Shat Sampatti becomes meaningful. And when Mumukshutva is strong, it becomes fruitful. And if Vairagya and Mumukshutva are not strong, what happens? Next verse he explains. He says, Etayoho mandata yatra. Yatra, where, in whom, Etayoho means of these two. Of these two, which two? Viraktatva mumukshayoho, he himself is saying. Of Vairagya and Mumukshutva, Etayoho yatra mandata, where there is dullness. In Vairagya and Mumukshutva, what happens? He says, Tatra, there, Shamadehe bhana matrata. Samadhi Shat Sampatti is only apparent. Show off. It is only there for show off. It's not actually there. Like what? Gives example, Marau Salila Vat. Vat means like. Like what? Marau, in the Marubhumi, in the desert, or on the desert sand, Salila means water. In the desert, because of the sun rays, on top of the sand you feel that there is water. We call it mirage. We see that it is water, but water is not there. We think that it is there, but it is not there. Shankaracharya says, if Vairagya and Mumukshutva are not strong, then you think that Samadhi Shat Sampatti is there, but it is not there. It is only apparent. If Vairagya, now you see the flow also. Viveka gives Vairagya. Vairagya gives Samadhi Shat Sampatti. Samadhi Shat Sampatti improves Mumukshutva. So actually Samadhi Shat Sampatti is in between Vairagya and Mumukshutva. So Shankaracharya is saying, if these two are strong, Samadhi Shat Sampatti is meaningful and fruitful. If these two are not strong, then Samadhi Shat Sampatti is actually not there. It's only appearing to be there. Means what? You think that you have got control over mind, but you actually have not got control over mind. What do you mean? How is this possible? See, in a closed environment, we think that we are in charge. For example, suppose there is no electricity. Then you don't have to control your eyes from seeing TV. Why? It is not there. It does not arise. that occasion to control mind does not arise. Somebody says, no, I have never taken bribe in my life. Why? Because nobody has offered. I am not in a position which is so important that people are offering bribe. But that capacity to reject bribe is actually not there in him. Why? Because he's never been tested. The testing will happen when actually someone offers bribe. Shamadhi Shat Sampatti, whether you have or not, will be tested when Vairagya and Mumukshutva grows. When you are actually facing the situation. Till that time, what happens? You only think that it is there, but it is not there. That is the point that Shankaracharya is making here. Where Vairagya and Mumukshutva are strong, Shamadhi Shat Sampatti is meaningful and fruitful. Where these two are not strong, Shamadhi Shat Sampatti is only apparent, it is not there actually. Understand both. Now, see from a different angle also. We are all seekers, sadhaka. We are all walking this path of spirituality. Now, in this life, there are two facets. One is lifestyle of a seeker and another is called seeking, sadhakata. Lifestyle of a seeker and the inner strength of that seeker. Now, lifestyle of a seeker is Shamadhi Shat Sampatti. But that inner core is Vairagya and Mumukshutva. Sadhakata. That which makes me a seeker is actually Vairagya and Mumukshutva. Why I am saying this? You just think about this. The moment we start to think that we are seekers, we create a kind of lifestyle around us, which is sometimes to show people that we are like this. Shamadhi Shat Sampatti is that. What do you mean by that? We may have it, we may not have it, but we are showing it. Actually, Shamadhi Shat Sampatti we may have or we may not have. That depends on the second factor, but we are showing it. That I don't get angry. I have titiksha. Okay? So when I am sitting with other seekers, I will say, it is okay. What is the problem? Today the food is like this. So what? It's okay. In front of them, our titiksha comes out. When we are alone sitting in our own room trying to meditate, that time titiksha won't come out. Why? Because it is actually not there. We are creating an appearance of it. We are creating, showing it off. But sadhakata, the inner core of the seeker is based on Vairagya and Mumukshutva. If that is there, then the Shamadhi Shat Sampatti has got meaning. Without sadhakata, the lifestyle of sadhaka is only an appearance. Think about it. Now, this is not something that we need to discuss more. This is something that we need to reflect more. In each and every one, in our own lives, we have to see whether really sadhakata is there or only outside appearance, outside lifestyle of sadhaka am I living. See, lifestyle of sadhaka is also required. Nobody is saying no for it. But without the core being strong, the lifestyle will not continue for long. You're getting the point? So, where Vairagya and Mumukshutva is strong, Shamadhi Shat Sampatti is meaningful and fruitful. Where it is not strong, it is only apparent. Shamadhi Shat Sampatti is only apparent. This is the point that Shankaracharya is telling you. Now, with this actually, Sadhana Chatushtaya topic is over. So started from where? First he gave some general qualities that are required. Medhavi, Purusho, Vidwan, Uha, Poha, Vichakshanaha, etc. was given. Remember? So that's what was a general competency which is required. Then he came to specific to this path of knowledge. And what is that? That is the sadhana chatushtaya, viveka, vairagya, samadhi, shat sampatti, mumukshutva. Each and every one is defined and explained. Some notes are also given. Now, actually speaking, sadhana chatushtaya is over. Then the next topic is guru upasadana, approaching a teacher. That now I have, equipped myself with these qualities. Now I have to approach the teacher. In between these two topics, he brings one verse. As I told you last time, this is the masterpiece of Shankaracharya. Let us read. Verse number 31 and the first line of verse 32 should be chanted together because the topic is same. Right. Please repeat. Mokshakarana samagyam bhaktireva gariyasi स्वस्वरूपानुसंधानम भक्तिरित्यभिधीयते स्वात्मतत्त्वानुसंधानम भक्तिरित्यपरे जगुः. मोक्षकारण सामग्र्यां भक्तिरेव गरीयसी स्वस्वरूपानुसंधानं भक्तिरित्यभिधीयते स्वात्मतत्त्वानुसंधानं भक्तिरित्यपरे जगुः. After explaining all the qualities that are required to walk this path of knowledge, now Shankaracharya says, Moksha Karana Samagryam. Among all the samagri, samagri means components that are required. We say no, for food also when we want to cook food, samagri is required. Collection of things. Samagri. And what samagri? Moksha Karana, which becomes the cause for liberation. So, all those means which are causative in nature for liberation, among all those means, moksha karana samagryam, among all the causative components for liberation, what are the causative components? Start from medhavi, that medha, vidvatva, uha, poha, vichakshanatva, then viveka, vairagya, shama, dama, uparama, titiksha, shraddha, samadhan, mumukshutva, guru upasadana, shravana, manana, nididhyasana, all that is samagri, all that is causative means for liberation. Among all of them, bhaktihi eva gariyasi. Devotion is the greatest means. Gariyasi, superior, most superior, greatest, prominent. So, among all the means for liberation, devotion is the most superior means. Okay? Where is he writing this? In Viveka Chudamani, which is the text of knowledge, not a Bhakti Grantha. This is not a scripture devoted to devotion. He is writing in Viveka Chudamani that Bhakti is the most prominent means for liberation. Now, Bhakti that we understand and Bhakti that Shankaracharya is talking is different. And he knows that. Therefore, he is defining Bhakti. What is Bhakti according to me? So, he says, Swarupa Anusandhanam Bhakti. Iti abhidhiyate. Iti thus abhidhiyate. It is defined. Bhakti devotion is defined as what? Swaswarupa Anusandhanam. Anusandhanam. Anu means again and again. Anu is a kind of prefix that is added in two meanings generally. One meaning of anu is paschat, afterwards. Anubhava. Or many examples can be given. Second meaning is anu means again and again or through every, that kind of meaning. Anudinam. Anudinam means every day. Anudarshanam can come with both meanings. Anudarshanam means anubhava, anubhuti. All these can come in both meanings. Every moment I am seeing or after knowledge I am seeing. So two meanings. One is again and again and another is after. So here what is said? Anusandhanam. Sandhi. Sandhanam means to join. So to always remain with that thought. What thought? Swaswarupa. So to ever remain in the knowledge of one's own nature is called as devotion. Swaswarupa, one's own nature, anusandhanam, being ever united with that is called as bhakti. So here actually Shankaracharya is defining bhakti as nididhyasana or samadhi. What is called as giving up all other thoughts, remaining always in the thought of Brahman. Vijatiya vritti tiraskritya sajatiya vritti pravaha. Sajatiya vritti pravaha. Don't worry about this, it will come later on also. Sajatiya means of equal type, of same type. Vritti means thought, pravaha means flow. An unbroken flow of thoughts all about Brahman. That is called as nididhyasana, meditation. That is what he is calling it as bhakti. Now two questions come. One is, what is exactly bhakti? And how can bhakti become what he is explaining? Let us understand. Bhakti word comes from root bhaj. Bhaja sevayam. Bhaja means to serve, to worship. That's the meaning of word bhaja. So bhakti basically can mean service or devotion. That's the main meaning of the word bhakti. Now as we understand, whenever we hear the word bhakti, we understand devotion to be bhakti marga, the path of devotion. There is a difference, please note this difference. There is a difference between bhakti and bhakti marga. There is a difference between jnana and jnana marga. What is bhakti marga? What is the path of devotion? The path of devotion includes worship of the Lord in different ways. Pujanam, japa, chintanam, etc. Isn't it? This is called as bhakti marga or bhakti yoga, the path of devotion. Now please note, Shankaracharya is not saying that this is the greatest means. Shankaracharya is not calling bhakti marga as the greatest. Shankaracharya is calling bhakti as greatest. So puja, japa, meditation, dhyana, chintana, etc. is path of devotion. By walking this path, we reach the pinnacle of devotion. Now that pinnacle of devotion is called as bhakti here. And that is called as moksha karana samagriyam gariyasi. The most prominent means among all other means for liberation. So what exactly is bhakti? Bhakti means devotion. Okay. What do you mean by devotion? Love towards higher or highest is called as devotion. Again, how do you define devotion? Devotion is love for something higher or highest. That is called as devotion. See, I am defining according to Sanskrit, okay? I am not defining according to Bhakti Shastra. Bhakti Shastra will give different kind of definition. Bhakti Shastra will say that the kind of love that you have, that you cannot live without that beloved even for a moment. That is called as devotion. Different definitions of devotion can be given. No, Narad Bhakti Sutra gives many definitions. Naradastu tadarpita akhila acharata tadvismarane paramavyakulata iti bhakti. Pujadishu anuragah iti bhakti. Atma anusandhanam iti bhakti. Different definitions are given in Narad Bhakti Sutra itself. So I am not explaining according to the Bhakti Shastra. Why? Because Bhakti Shastra will have its own terminology, its own definition of terms. See, each science has got technical terms, and meaning of those terms in that science is very precise, very particular. Example, work. Work, when you say, work when you and me understand is work. But you take that concept of work in physics, it is different, no? Force into displacement. That work becomes technical term there. Now that technical meaning you cannot take it out and in another science. Number of hours that you have worked, please specify. There you cannot, somebody is asking you question, you cannot say how much of force I applied and how much displacement happened. That is for physics. This is different, that is different. Though the word is same, its meaning is particular to that science. So meaning of bhakti according to word meaning we are seeing now. And in Vedanta what is said is Shankaracharya is explaining. But what it is meant in Bhakti Shastra is something different. We are not going to that now, just now. Right now what we are saying, Bhakti as a path, Bhakti Marga has got many steps. Puja, Japa, Chintana, etc. Now, through that path, when we reach the pinnacle of Bhakti, what is that? That is that devotion for the Lord, which is absolutely selfless and complete. So that devotion is what is called as bhakti. And what is devotion? Devotion is love for highest. Correct? Now what is love? Think about it. What is love? It's an abstract concept. It's not easy to define love. How do you define love? You love somebody means what? Think about it. Whatever may be your explanation, it will be the result of love. That I always think about that person. Always thinking about that person is love. If you say that, that is the result of love. Because you love that person, therefore you are thinking about that person. I keep that person's wish ahead of my wish. That again is resultant. It's a result of love. How do you define love? Pujya Gurudev gives very beautiful meaning. He says love is identification. Love is oneness. How much I love a person or a thing depends on how much I feel it as one. When you say, I love my car, means what? There is a feeling of oneness between myself and car. And therefore, when the car is new, I feel that it is me, it is an extension of me. And therefore, a scratch on the car, I feel that it is scratch on me. When I say, I love a person, I consider that person as extension of myself. And therefore, if anybody says anything to that person, I take it as personal insult. That's what we call as love. Love means identity, oneness. That is love. So what do you mean by bhakti then? that identity with the highest is bhakti then. See, if love is identity and devotion is love for highest, then that devotion will become identity with highest. And I feel that I am that supreme Brahman, that highest. And me, we are one and the same. So actually speaking, bhakti from the highest standpoint is jnana, knowledge. The marga, the paths may be different, don't confuse. Bhakti marga may be different from jnana marga. Bhakti marga is what? Puja, japa, chintana. Jnana marga is what? Shravana, manana, nididhyasana. As paths, they may be different, but the goal is one and the same. The goal of devotion, or what we understand as devotion, and the ultimate knowledge is one and the same. Swaswarupa Anusandhanam, you can consider it as bhakti or jnana, it is one and the same. What is the highest knowledge? To understand one's own real nature and to abide in it. This is the highest knowledge. And remember, this is not just from the standpoint of Vedanta. You see bhakti defined in Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is a bhakti grantha. Isn't it? In Bhagavat, Srimad Bhagavatam, bhakti is defined as what? It is said, bhaktir hitva anyatha rupam swarupena. Giving up all other anyatha rupam, what I am not, to abide in one's own nature is called as bhakti. That is what is called as mukti, it is said. That is liberation. Giving up what I am not and abiding in who actually I am. That is what is called as liberation. That is what is called as devotion. That's the highest standpoint. So devotion in its final acme is knowledge. There is no contradiction between the two. It is only the beginners who consider bhakti and jnana to be different. And therefore, many times you will hear such statements, no, Vedanta doesn't have bhakti. There is no role of bhakti in Vedanta. It is wrong. It is absolutely wrong. You see Shankaracharya. Now, why I am saying this? Because if it is like that, Shankaracharya, why is Shankaracharya using the word bhakti there? If he meant jnana, he should have used the word jnana only. Nididhyasana directly he could have used. Why is he calling it as bhakti? Because bhakti has got an aspect of love. You see, when you have love, the sadhana becomes easy. Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi, Shat, Sampatti, Mumukshutva will become easy to inculcate when there is love for the Supreme. Example, you are watching TV, you are watching something that you love. Then what happens? Then there is total focus. You don't even blink your eyes. You are fixed. And suppose somebody comes in between, you turn, but you don't lose that connection. Do you need to put efforts in doing that? No, because you love it. You love cricket, you will remember everything about cricket effortlessly. Who are the present players? Who is the best player? Whether he is good with spin bowling or fast bowling, how many centuries, where, everything you will remember. You don't have to memorize. Sachin Tendulkar, first century in Australia. You don't have to memorize. Because you like it, it will just come to you effortlessly. We don't have sufficient love for the spiritual path and for the goal. That's why we feel that it is difficult to focus our mind. Remember that story which I told you? One story was of Tukaram Maharaj. Somebody went and asked Tukaram Maharaj, how do you keep your mind focused on God? Tukaram Maharaj said, how do you not keep your mind focused on God? You tell me that. Such a lovely form. How can your mind go anywhere else when such a lovely form is in front of you? Another story of that gopi who was meditating to remove Sri Krishna from her mind so that she can focus on some work. We have to meditate to focus our mind on God. Gopika used to meditate to remove Bhagavan from the mind. For some time, let me at least work. When there is love, all other things just follow. Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi, Sampati, it will come, it will happen automatically. And that's why Shankaracharya is using the word bhakti here. Actually, bhakti is used in the meaning of bodha, knowledge only, which is sakshat sadhana, which is direct means for liberation. Swaswarupanusandhana means abiding in one's own nature is knowledge only. You understand? But that is said as bhakti because it brings that aspect of love. And Shankaracharya says, this bhakti, among all the other means for liberation, this is the greatest means. Okay? Please don't have any kind of confusion about it. Paths are different. Don't confuse that also. Path of devotion and path of knowledge are different. But final culmination of knowledge is devotion. And devotion, culmination of devotion is knowledge. Therefore, the greatest bhakta, devotee, is jnani, is a realized person. And greatest jnani is a bhakta. There is no contradiction on that level at all. As paths, they may be different, but the goal is one and the same. Therefore, never have any kind of conflict with those people who are following the path of devotion. That is also very important. Please make a note of it. Why I am saying this? Because I have made that mistake. Therefore, I am telling you. Suddenly we start to feel that I am superior. Why? Because I am following path of knowledge, I am doing Shravana, Manana, etc. I am thinking. And what is this? Hare Rama, you are only singing. What is the point of? Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't ever think that your path is superior. Why? Because no path is superior. Because if one path would have been superior, everybody would have come to that path only. It's not about the path. It's about our eligibility. Shankaracharya also said no earlier that Desha, Kala, etc. all this is secondary. What is primary? Your eligibility is primary. Whether we are on the path of knowledge or on the path of devotion, that's not important. What is important? How fast are you going? How much have you progressed? So never have this feeling that my path or I am superior to somebody. Why? Because I am following the path of knowledge. Okay? I am telling what the Shastras are telling. I remember I had gone to Siddhabari in one of our ashrams, and one Swamiji who attended Mahasamadhi now, I went to that Swamiji and I prostrated and I was talking to Swamiji, and then my mother came there. My mother. And when Swamiji looked at my mother, he looked at me and he said, you know, your mother is going to get liberation faster than you. Then I thought that, he wants to praise my mother because she is serving Guruji, etc. So therefore, when she came, he is saying like that. So I said, yes, Swamiji, yes, she will get it faster. But somewhere in my mind, that thought was there that how it is possible. I am a brahmachari. I have given up all other things and I am, studying Vedanta, teaching Vedanta. She is not doing that. Somewhere in my mind, that thought was there. So Swamiji again looked at me and he said, I am not joking. I am telling you what the Shastras are telling. It is the truth. What do you mean by that? The point is, knowledge is same. I am Brahman. Why am I not getting that knowledge? Because my mind is not purified. Now, if that purity of mind is achieved by somebody through devotion, through service, that person will get liberation much faster. No doubt about it. Never have this doubt about it. Never take anything casual, saying that, oh, this is lower. No, it is not. If it is going to give me purity of mind, then it is highest, my dear. Just because you are studying Vedanta, teaching Vedanta, doesn't make you superior. See, I am not saying path of knowledge is not superior. Please don't misunderstand that also. Don't go on other extreme, saying that, oh, devotion, so that means devotion is higher, knowledge, path of knowledge is lower. No, I am saying the higher and lower is according to one's eligibility, not based on path. If that Chitta Shuddhi, purity of mind, and Chitta Ekagrata is achieved through devotion, then it is faster. If it is achieved through knowledge, very good. Do it. Nobody is saying no for that. But never look down upon somebody. Never think that you are a better sadhaka because you are doing more sadhana. Never think like this. Why? You see, maybe it is because you have to do more sadhana because your case is worst. That is also a possibility, no? What they can achieve by a few minutes of sadhana, you have to do hours. Why? Because you are worst. Intensive care unit is required. Medical normal ward is not sufficient. Maybe that's why you have put in ICU. Don't be proud that, never get this false pride up. That's the point that we have to remember as seeker. Just because I am following a particular path, just because I belong to some organization doesn't make me great. When you are also now Chinmaya Mission, part of Chinmaya Mission, you go out and you say you are from Chinmaya. Oh, you are from Chinmaya Mission, please come. Then you suddenly. That is greatness of your Guru. That is Gurudev's name. Chinmayanand has given such a level that just by saying that I am part of Chinmaya Mission, they give so much of respect to you. Just because I am wearing this yellow cloth, they come and prostrate to you. Not because I have achieved something. This is reflected glory of the ancestors. They have given value to these clothes. And therefore, just by looking at clothes, people just come and prostrate. Don't let it get into your head that they are prostrating to you. Never have this thought. They are prostrating to the cloth. How this? That is because Gurudev used to wear. That is because great rishis used to wear that, and they were great. Therefore, I am wearing. They think that I am also great. You keep it in mind. Keep it in mind that this is what is because of them. Never feel that just because I am part of this, I have become great or anything. Be grounded in your sadhana. So, when Shankaracharya says Moksha Karana Samagrayam Bhaktireva Gariyasi, he is talking about bhakti as bodha, as that continuous flow of thoughts towards Supreme Brahman. That Supreme Brahman is me, myself, Aham Brahmasmi. That unbroken flow of thoughts, Aham Brahmasmi, is what is called as bhakti here. Okay, and we have understood how bhakti and jnana in their ultimate sense are same only. The paths may be different, but even among paths, don't make gradation. Don't have this feeling that I am greater or somebody else is, inferior to me. Never have this feeling. Clear? Now what he says? Now he says that there is another also, some people have another opinion of bhakti also. What is that? Iti bhaktihi iti apare. Apare means others. Others, jaguhu. They said bhakti. What is bhakti? So it is said swa atma tattva anusandhanam. Now here somebody will say that swaswarupa anusandhanam and swatma tattva anusandhanam is one and the same. No, there is a difference. Here swa atma tattva anusandhanam, what is meant is upasana is meant. Here, swatma is that jivatma, is that jiva. So, to do upasana of that Supreme Brahman on that jiva is what is called as bhakti by others. So, two opinions. First opinion or first definition of bhakti is knowledge, bodha. Second definition of bhakti is upasana. Now, just because topic is there, let us understand this also a little bit. What do you mean by upasana? Upasana means in something lower, something higher is invoked. That is called as upasana. Upasana or upasanam, both mean the same. Nikrishta vastuni shastrokta utkrishta bhavaha upasanam. In a lower object, something higher is invoked, and this invocation should be supported by scripture. Then it is called as upasana. I will give you example and you will understand. On Shivalinga, which is technically actually Shivalinga, linga is a stone, but we don't consider it as stone. We have invoked Lord Shiva on that stone. This is called as upasana. On that Shaligrama, we have invoked Lord Vishnu. In the Murti, in an idol that we see, we have invoked higher ideal, that is called as upasana. Understanding? So that lower object is called vigraha. Vigraha. That vigraha can be murti, that vigraha can be stone, can be anything. A picture also it can be. Like for example, we salute the flag, Indian national flag. We salute. What are we saluting? We are saluting our country through the flag. So, country is invoked in a piece of cloth. Otherwise, it is a piece of cloth. But we are invoking the feeling of country in that. This is called as upasana. But it has to be shastrokta. Tomorrow I cannot, remove my handkerchief and say that, you see, this is India. I can't do that. Because there is a constitution which is Shastra, which says that Indian national flag is of this type. Ochre or orange on top, white in between, green at the bottom with blue wheel in the center with how many spokes. All that is specified. Then we invoke on that cloth, we invoke something higher, that is country. That is called as upasana. So, vigraha is that object on which you are invoking something which is higher. Understanding? So, that is called as upasana. Now, here Shankaracharya says that other people believe that this upasana is bhakti. This other definition of bhakti. And here, what is that vigraha? What is the lower object on which we are invoking? The lower object is you yourself. And therefore, this type of upasana is called as ahangrahopasana. Some of those who have studied Vedanta will know this. Ishavasya Upanishad, etc. explains it. Ahangraha means aham, me, this jiva is graha, is that lower object on whom that higher supreme is invoked. So, understand the difference between jnana and upasana. Jnana says, I am that Supreme Brahman. Upasana says, I invoke Supreme Brahman on me. Understand the difference. Knowledge says, I am Brahman. Upasana says, I invoke that Supreme Brahman on me. I worship that Supreme Brahman on me. He says, according to some, this is called as bhakti. Now, the difference is what? In jnana, in the first definition of bhakti which is bodha, the result is jivan mukti. You get liberation here itself. If you become established in the knowledge of the Supreme Brahman as one's own self, you get liberated here itself. Whereas the result of this Ahangrahopasana is Krama Mukti, liberation in steps. That from here you go to Brahmaloka and from there you get liberated. Don't go in too much of detail. There are other texts which will explain this. Right now, what is the point? Shankaracharya says, among all the means for liberation, bhakti is the greatest means. And what is bhakti? Swaswarupa Anusandhanam. Constant remembrance of one's own nature is called as devotion. That identity with the Supreme. That is called as bhakti. Apare, according to some other people, what is bhakti? To invoke, to do upasana on oneself as that Supreme is called as bhakti. Iti apare jaguhu. Therefore, it is given in a different verse. That some say like this. Okay. In the first type of bhakti, he is calling it as moksha karana samagrayam bhakti reva gariyasi. He is calling it as most prominent and superior means for liberation. Why? Because it gives direct liberation. Okay, not the second type, the first type. Okay, all right. So, Shankaracharya has concluded the topic of, go back to second verse. Jantunam narajanma durlabhamatah pumsvam tato viprata tasmadvaidika dharma marga parata vidvatvam asmat param. Up to here we have completed. Human life, rarity and importance of it. Pumstvam, manly qualities. Viprata, divine qualities. Then, next is what? Vaidika dharma marga parata, that we had seen before only. What is that? The pravritti marga and nivritti marga we had seen before. Up to here we are come. Now, vidvatvam we have to see. Vidvatvam we have not seen. Vidvatvam is gaining the knowledge, which will happen after going to Guru. So, vidvatvam, atmanatma vivechanam, etc. will follow. Up to Vaidika dharma marga parata, the topics are over. Now, what the next topic is, you have to approach the Guru and surrender. And then what is to be done, that Shankaracharya will explain from next verse. Verse number 32 onwards, the topic of Guru Upasadanam starts. Approaching or surrendering unto Guru. That topic starts, and in his most, what we can say, incomparable style, Shankaracharya explains that. He takes actual example and he explains what is the state of that student and how is that student approaching the teacher and what is he saying, what is the teacher saying. Through direct dialogue, he brings this entire topic of Guru Upasadana in front of us. We will see that in the next sessions. We will conclude. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om.